Hey everybody, welcome back to the Brave and the Boys. I'm your host Jake, and I want to show you guys, introduce you to the new set. So we got fancy lights, I added another little calyx, and you know what? I think it looks fantastic. Okay, today we have something to talk about that I am incredibly excited for. So I've talked a lot on the show about my love of Batman, Superman, Nightwing, all heroes that I love. But one thing that I have not talked about, my favorite media franchise of all time, and that is Star Wars. You know what? This doesn't feel right. I feel like I'm missing something. Hold on one second. Is this too much? Should I take it down a notch? Or is this...
This is perfect.
Because I am a massive Star Wars fan, and today I am excited to talk about the 5 best Star Wars Omnis for new readers. Before we do that, guys, we gotta give a shout out to our sponsor, Organic Price Books. You can use the code Braveboys to save $2, or if you're shipping 3 or more books, you can use the code Braveboyssit to save 5%. May the Force be with you. Let's jump in.
Deep within a bleak and dismal swamp, hidden beneath its murky waters, lies the headquarters of the most sinister villains of all time. The Legion of Doom.
Up first was the first Star Wars Omni that I ever read, and that is Darth Vader by Charles Soule. This story was amazing. I hearken it back to the scene in Rogue One when you finally get to see Darth Vader be a badass, where he's just mowing down those rebels. Like, that is the vibe of this book. It takes place right after episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and you get to see an early Darth Vader. He doesn't even have his iconic lightsaber yet. You get to see him go from a Sith to a Sith Lord. One of the coolest things they did in this book is they changed the origin of red lightsabers. So in this, what they said is they have to hunt down and kill a Jedi and then bleed that crystal. So they take their rage and their hatred and their fury and they turn the crystal red. So you get to see how Darth Vader gets his lightsaber. It's awesome. You get sick battles, amazing lightsaber fights, and you get to see Darth Vader really become the Sith Lord that he becomes. It's an exhilarating ride. I tore through it. It's a super fast read, and I cannot highly recommend it enough. It really fills in that gap between the Darth Vader that we saw at the end of episode 3 to who we see someday at A New Hope. So this is incredible. It was my favorite of the 2 Darth Vader Omnis, and I cannot highly recommend it enough. You have to read it. Coming up next, we're gonna go thousands of years in the past with the next choice. Star Wars might be the story a long time ago in a galaxy far away, but this is the story a long time ago. I remember this fateful day when I finally bought an Xbox and 2 games, Knights of the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic 2. I didn't know anything about them other than that it looked like Star Wars on the cover, and I had to get it. It looked so cool, and I became engrossed. Revan became my favorite Star Wars character. It is to this day my favorite Star Wars story, and I am madly in love with it. Knights of the Old Republic was my favorite video game. I even played the Old Republic, which was the World of Warcraft sequel, even though I had no friends to play it with and I really didn't know what I was doing. I can't tell you how much I loved it, and it really made me sad when Disney said that those legend stories were no longer canon. Then I found out that there was an out-of-print Star Wars omnibus called The Old Republic. It used to be a Dark Horse series called Knights of the Old Republic, but they changed the name when Marvel got the rights. This was my white whale. I hunted for it, but I made a promise to my girlfriend that I wouldn't buy any out-of-print books for above cover price, and finding this book at cover price was hard. I used to always hit up Jess, OmniDog, and be like, give me your copy. He never would. But let's jump into this book. So it doesn't star Revan or any of the characters you know from the game, but it does star a bumbling young Padawan named Zane Carrick. He lives on Terrace, which you will recognize from the first Knights of the Old Republic game, and he is a Padawan just trying to make it, but he's not really great at the Force. They like to say he has a special relationship with the Force, but he's kind of a bumbling fool. He keeps trying to hunt down this kind of 2-bit criminal, and he keeps just bumbling as a Padawan. Then he finally gets his chance. Him and his friends are finally going to get promoted to Jedi Knights. Of course, because he's a bumbling fool and he's late to everything, he shows up late. And what does he see? His the master standing over the dead bodies of the other Padawans, and they turn to him, and he's just like, oh crap. And he just runs away and they start chasing him, and he gets framed for the murder of the other Padawans. That's basically all I'll tell you to get started of the story, but you get to see the alliances that he forms. You get to see amazing battles between Jedis and Sith, And it's just so cool. And I think one of the things that's fun is because it takes place thousands of years ago, you're not as beholden to the continuity as some of the other ones. I mean, in some of the newer ones, you're like, oh, I know Luke has to survive because there's going to be a movie with him. So I had no idea what was going to happen. This was probably my favorite Star Wars omnibus I've ever read. I'm so happy I got it. I'm so happy I didn't pay, you know, an out of print price that was ridiculous. And I tell you guys, you have to read it. I do want to say before I get a lot of comments like, why are you recommending out of print book? I do believe the Epic collections are currently in print, so that is a good way to go. The other thing is, I mean, this says volume 1. That means hopefully we get a volume 2 someday. So I'm really hoping they bring this book back. I mean, trust me, the thing I've learned about collecting, as you can see, I've collected 1 or 2 books. I've always regretted paying above cover price for a book. If you're patient, you will eventually find the book at the price you want to pay for it. So it'll come back someday, you know, mark my words. And when it does, it should really be worth on your list to pick up. But let's go to one that takes place a lot closer to the movies that we know and love. So for the next 3 books, they're all going to take place at relatively the same time. And at one point, all 3 of these books are going to cross over. But I really do think that each one of them tells a different side of the story. And it's really important for the overarching narrative of Star Wars. So coming in at number 3, we have Star Wars by Jason Aaron. Now, where does this pick up? So this is going to take place right after episode 4. So the Death Star just blew up. Luke became this new, you know, person on his path to becoming a Jedi, but he doesn't really have all the skills yet. You get to see Leia just be badass in this storyline. Han is cool as shit. It is awesome, and it does have the Vader's Down crossover that the next 3 books will have. I think this is a really cool book. It was really fun. I really hope we get follow-ups of this book. I know Jason Aaron's run is done, but I know there are some really cool Star Wars runs after him. Really think everyone should read it. It's going to add a lot of context between the Star Wars movies. It really fills in that gap, which is cool because it adds context. So I mean, there's benefits to the Old Republic, which is continuity free and you don't know what's going to happen. There's also cool because you get to see how characters go from point A to point C and they get to fill in that gap. So Star Wars by Jason Aaron's really cool. The characters are awesome. They feel, I mean, this might be a sacrilegious thing to say, but they really truly do feel like how I remember the characters being in the movies. And for that reason, it's on my list. Everyone should read it. Now, let's jump into the other side of this story. Darth Vader is a character that is very near and dear to my heart. For people that are viewers of this channel, you might know that I named my first kitty, my adorable black fur son, Vader. So I'm a pretty big fan. So obviously there's going to be more than one Darth Vader omnibus on this list. What I really like though is that it is such an incredible follow-up to the first Darth Vader omnibus. So the first Darth Vader omnibus, you know, is post episode 3, but he's kind of a Sith Lord in training. Here you get to see the badass Vader that we know from the movies. So this one is a Vader that's risen in the ranks, he's risen in his power, and he is just cool as shit. So you get to see him kind of going after Luke, Leia, and Han. I mean, they set the tone for things that will happen in the later movies. One of the things I love about this book is you realize how the Emperor has his hands in a lot of cookie jars and he has a lot of backup plans in case Vader fails. So you really get to see Vader start to break away from the Emperor. You get to see him start to build his own plans and his own schemes. And that's going to introduce the character for the last omnibus, Dr. Aphra. So in this, he hires Dr. Aphra to help him steal some stuff. And before I kind of get any more into her character, I should say that for her side. I will say though that I love some of the moments in this book. There's one moment in particular where he hires Boba Fett to go and find out who blew up the Death Star. And the moment when Vader hears the name of who blew up the Death Star and it just says Skywalker, it was just like, I mean, that moment alone is worth reading. So everyone should read it. It's fantastic. This will also include the Vader's Down crossover that the last book has and the next book will have, which I loved. And it really sets up some really cool moments. I go back and forth on which Vader omnibus I love more, but I think when you read the two together, it's just such a complete tale. And all of these books that I'm talking about flow in together well, so I cannot highly recommend it enough. Let's jump into number 5. Dr. Aphra was introduced in that last omnibus, Darth Vader by Gillen, and she instantly became a character I fell in love with. She's completely amoral. She only thinks for herself. I mean, she's an archaeologist. She has these 2 murderous droids that are like dark mirrors of C-3PO and R2-D2. They're just crazy homicidal murder droids. I mean, I love the fact that one of the best assassin droids ever was hidden to be a protocol droid. Amazing. You get really cool moments with Black Chrysanthemum, and I mean, like an evil Wookiee is just also cool as shit. Amazing. I love it. Sometimes I love Star Wars omnibuses because they will add more context to the characters I love. But I also love how this book and the Old Republic Omnibus introduce new characters for me to fall in love with. I would love to see a Dr. Aphra in the live action. I think her character is so cool. I really love how Vader's always going to be like, I'll kill you if you disappoint me, or I'll kill you when I'm done. And she always finds some way to kind of like skate by in the skin of her teeth. An awesome storyline. I love it. I think it's really fun. I do know there is a volume 2 coming out later this year. I've heard that one might not be as good as the first volume, but I love Dr. Aphra, so I'm gonna get it and I'm gonna probably love it. But it was just fun. I mean, like, it's like, imagine if Indiana Jones was a female with murderous assassin droids and just completely amoral, out for herself. It's just a whole bunch of fun. It's also gonna include, like I've said before, that Vader Down storyline, which the last 3 omnibuses all cross over, and it is just so much fun. Guys, I love Star Wars. Thank you so much for sticking around. Let's jump into my conclusions. The YouTube algorithm sucks, and people like to click on things that are catchy, and 6 Star Wars Omnis for new readers does not sound as good as 5 Star Wars Omnis for new readers. I did want to give one honorable mention. Star Wars The New Republic is fantastic. I bought this mostly though because Volume 2, which is coming out in 2024, is going to include the graphic novel version of Heir to the Empire, which is like the Thrawn story that I think they're going to do for Dave Filoni's movie. So this is also one to pick up. I will say though that I'm going to keep it to my original 5. I do love those a little bit more, but I am incredibly looking forward to number 2 of this series. There's so many Star Wars Omnis that are fantastic. These were just the 5 that I picked, but I just had to throw in a little honorable mention before the conclusion. Thank you so much for watching this video, my fellow Jedi and Sith. This was a lot of fun to make. Star Wars is very near and dear to my heart. I cannot express how much it means to me. I mean, I've spent too much, not just on Star Wars Omnis, but Star Wars lightsabers. I have more than I should. This list was a lot of fun to make. These are some of my favorite books. Before I even started collecting Marvel books, Star Wars was my one exception that I would read. So I really hope this list was fun for you guys. If you want to pick up any of these books, you can go to Organic Price Books, use the code Braveboys to save $2, or if you're buying 3 or more, or if you're buying all 5, you can use the code Braveboyssit to save 5%. We do have merch. I am not wearing one of my t-shirts, but I do have a mug right here. It will be down in the description below. You can check out our Redbubble. Give us some love. We have lots of fun things on there. And yeah, that's gonna wrap up this video. I want you guys to comment down below what Star Wars Omnis I should read next. I know there's tons to read. I mean, I'm trying to catch up. But tell me down below what your favorite Star Wars books are. It could be video games, movies. I mean, I know there's a lot of prose books of Star Wars that are really fun. Tell you guys that I'm having so much fun with this channel. You guys are continuingly to give us love and support. I mean, for all those that came out to our 100th episode stream, just meant the world to me. So thank you for being supportive, because this is just so much fun, guys. Subscribe, hit that bell so you get notifications, and most importantly, keep reading and stay brave.